Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in Louisiana following a private military chest deep in a swamp. One of the group waits until he's alone to drain the lizard, but a human and leech hybrid sneaks up and drags him underwater. When his comrades return, one is attacked by the blood-sucking mutant, and if that doesn't kill him then his team's gunfire certainly does. The rest run away, with two finding their way to the nearest road only for the mysterious Poinsettia to shoot both dead. The only survivor gets lost because he trips over losing his glasses, and it almost gets him eaten by the humanoid leech. The hero of the swamp arrives looking like 6 feet of spinach and gives the mutant worm a good beatdown. It escapes into the water, so Swampy gives the survivor his glasses and a heart attack when he sees the face of his savior. We transition into the opening credits featuring artwork from the Swamp Thing comics and the creature's theme song Born on the Bayou. Meanwhile, a florist named Abigail Arcane complains that men should be more like plants and that when you stroke them they don't get the wrong idea. She walks out on her disinterested colleague and catches a cab to her stepfather's mansion in the swamps. Inside his lab, Anton Arcane attempts to recreate the formula that created the Swamp Thing for its regenerative abilities. His love interest Dr. Lana has spliced human DNA with animals, but they're still unable to get anything powerful like Swampy. The fly is more of a failure than the other mutants for whatever reason, so Dr. Rochelle puts him into a microwave and turns it on. A local cop shows up with a warning for the homeowner that there's a giant leech in the vicinity and a green man from Mars. He hadn't even heard of the planet until the survivor said the name and just believes everything that the wealthy socialite says. Miss Poinsettia leads him away to search the perimeter for any swamp person, while Arcane tells Mr. Gunn that they need to find him first. Soon Abigail arrives and her taxi driver can't get away quick enough, as Arcane's known to be a bit of a sadistic whackjob. He wants to use his own daughter's genetic material in his experiments and tells the staff at the mansion to treat her with care. Lana shows Abigail to her room and the two argue about their relationships with Arcane like bickering sisters. Abby thinks Lana's corrupting her stepfather, while Lana doesn't like Abby because she's interrupting their research. At a nearby trailer park, a young boy sneaks out during a storm to meet up with his friend across the way. Omar pulls out the sody pops and nudie magazines to settle in for a night of MTV, only to be interrupted by a banging on the door. Thinking that it's his mom, Darryl answers the door, but the leech returns and chases the terrified boys until catching them outside. Before he can eat them, the Swamp Thing comes to save the day and the two throw down with a couple of metal poles. The boys enjoy the monsters smashing a few of their parents' cars, and during the scuffle the leech hits the most volatile gas bottle in existence. It sets off a chain of car bombs and the mutant runs to the water to put himself out, but then dies when randomly exploding. Our young survivors identify the Jolly Green Giant as the good guy and give a thumbs up to the victorious Swamp Thing. It feels like all Arcane ever does is tell his goons to get out there and find the creature, but at least this time they have dozens of men scouring the swamp. At dinner, Abby's made aware that her recently deceased mother was cremated without a ceremony and Daddy Dearest never told her. He then calls for his assistant/scientist/girlfriend to bring Abigail a ring from her mother's collection. It's just a ruse to collect a sample of her blood without her knowing, so that Arcane can test if she's compatible with his experiments. Abigail decides to go for a walk and is warned that the swamp isn't a safe place at night, so Arcane has his two minions follow her. Nearby, two hillbillies talk about going out and killing for fun while neither has even seen a woman in years. Abby stumbles upon the two creeps, but when trying to ask for directions they try to assault her, so Swampy comes to the rescue. Once dispatched, the two run away and Abby thanks her moldy savior, which is coincidentally the plant man of her dreams. She reveals her status as Arcane's stepdaughter, so the Swamp Thing's like, oh boy, we've got a lot of explaining to do. His origin is shown through a series of flashbacks demonstrating the Swamp Thing as a human scientist who invented a secret formula. Arcane accidentally blew it up when trying to kill Swampy, but the formula used the surrounding swamp to regrow him. When he finishes Abby's cool story and goes to leave, but is captured by Arcane's men who launch an assault on Swampy. He flees into the forest in a high-speed foot chase and makes it to the water's edge, but is gunned down and blown up with a grenade. Arcane tells Gunn to have his men collect some pieces and bring it to the lab, but the camera pans to a flickering piece of coleslaw. Abby gets taken to Arcane's lab, where he reveals he was once killed by the Swamp Thing, but Rochelle restored him to his original appearance. That's why he needs the creature to create a formula that'll stabilize him, and he also killed Abby's mother by accident. Only later did they realize that her genetic material is needed for the restoration, so now he plans to use Abby's in place of her. Arcane orders her to be locked up until she's required for their experiment, but Swampy's remains are shown entering the compound. In the middle of the night, as Arcane and Lana get ready for bed, Rochelle interrupts them with a pressing matter. He forces Arcane to send Lana away so that he can explain that they also need her genetic material to mix with his daughters. The experiment will probably kill them both, but Arcane agrees without hesitation, so the eavesdropping Lana fears for her life. Downstairs, Abigail seduces Mr. Gunn, who thinks that it'll be a turn on to show her around the dangerous lab creatures. He tries to pull one out, but Abby knees him in the chestnuts and smashes a beaker over his head before escaping on the elevator. She's caught by Lana, who's over it, and instead of stopping her just hands over her car keys to let her run away. Getting recaptured again, two of Arcane's goons take Abby upstairs, but Swampy enters through the pipes in the bathtub. He puts himself back together and rescues Abby from her captors before taking Lana's Jeep and getting the hell out of there. Swampy drives while Abigail holds off her father's men with a shotgun, killing multiples while they hit nothing but air. Not only is this florist a marksman, but can also throw perfectly timed grenades to blow a gate open and escape unscathed. The next morning, Abby awakens in the swamp with her savior and basically just declares herself his girlfriend. She does this by saying she's a vegetarian and leaning in for a kiss, but Swampy is a plant, so the physical stuff must stop. To solve that, he breaks off a bud from his groin area and feeds it to Abby, which causes her to hallucinate him as a human. Flora and Fauna get it on in the dream world before sobering up fully clothed, like, was it as good for you as it was for me? Meanwhile, Lana learns that Rochelle has used one of the security guards' genetic material for the experiment, so she's safe for now. She locks the doctor inside a containment room after first injecting him with whatever he was going to use on the guard. Elsewhere, the two kids that Swampy saved are searching for the friendly monster to snap a photo, preferably clearer than Bigfoot's. Within seconds of sitting down, Darryl has already eaten their supply of snacks and left Omar with only the apples. They're soon captured by Arcane's men while the Swamp Thing is nearby on a date in his favorite area of the bog. He says that it was a slave plantation and is now haunted when hearing the kids scream and rushing to their defense. Using a baseball bat that the boys dropped, he beats the crap out of all of Arcane's goons, and the ones without fractured skulls run away. Forgetting that he just left a woman alone in Gator Country, Swampy poses for photos with his new adoring fans. Hearing Abby scream, Swampy races back, but the soldiers have already swiped her up and take the prisoner back home. Arcane has her strapped down and prepared for the transfer before sending Gunn and Poinsettia to go find the doctor. They immediately get distracted comparing scars and discussing their mutual dislike of each other, which leads to them making out. With only a little sample of the Swamp Thing's genes to work with, Arcane's forced to proceed with the experiment. He begins the transfer and Abby's life is drained while Arcane is imbued with her youth and says that he feels 25 again. Realizing that Lana switched out the gene sample with a phony and his experiment didn't actually work, Arcane shoots his girlfriend stone cold for her betrayal in that lackluster redemption arc. Meanwhile, Swampy has begun his raid on the mansion, taking out all of the guards on his way inside. Gunn charges at him in a Jeep, but the Swamp Thing apparently carries around grenades and also has perfectly timed throws. He makes his way inside to locate Abby unresponsive and Arcane standing near her like, what are you gonna do about it? Suddenly, Dr. Rochelle breaks out of his containment cell, pinning Arcane beneath the heavy door, where he eventually dies. The egg-headed doctor has mutated a large cranium but doesn't seem to possess any sort of hyper-intelligence or ability to fight. Swampy just tosses him into the microwave used for failed subjects, and we never see that guy again. Gunn returns but is easily overpowered, so he insults Swampy's ability to please his girlfriend without hallucinogenic warts. Swampy just pulls a pin on his grenade and throws him away before the explosion, but we never actually see Poinsettia again. Leaving Arcane and the caged experiments, the Swamp Thing picks up Abby's lifeless body and walks out before the mansion explodes. Once he's at a safe distance, Swampy watches it go up in a fireball before wandering away with a dead girl in his arms. When the sun rises, the Swamp Thing uses his power to resurrect Abby while the boys get the photo of the mythical Swamp Man. The two run away while Swampy warns Abby that there could be side effects from giving her life back. She says that she's eager to discover them together as the camera pans down to a small plant growing out of her foot. The mid-credit scene shows the boys arguing out front of the photomat about forgetting film for the camera. And the movie ends.